Hey guys, so I'm going to give you a little bit of help on page 22 where we put all these Q formulas together. This is the really important part of all of these formulas and it's probably the hardest, so I'm going to walk through it with you and that'll make your homework easier. So we need to compare the three formulas that have Q's in them. So all of these have Q's and our job is to tell the difference between them. The formula that has heat of fusion in it is moles times HF. The formula with the heat of vaporization is moles times HV. The formula where the temperature changes, meaning you have to have two different temperatures, because then we subtract them, that's the old formula Q equals MCAT. Okay? All of those relate to two different locations on the graph. So let's do the letters next. The temperature changes always happen on the diagonal lines. So I can use Q equals MCAT on any diagonal lines. So that happens at letter A, letter C, and letter E. Okay? Now, if I have to think about the flat lines, that's where I could possibly use the other formula. So I have to figure out where do I use this and this. Okay? Heat of fusion is happening between solid and liquid. That's happening on line B. Has to be on the flat line. It can only be letter B. Heat of vaporization is also a flat line. That's happening between liquid and gas. That's at letter D on the graph. Okay? So, if I want to figure out, well, what temperature is this happening at? Think about this for water. This graph down here is for water. Okay? So the heat of fusion, when we've got freezing and melting, that happens at 0 degrees Celsius. Okay? The heat of vaporization happens at letter D, that's at 100 degrees Celsius. When we have the Q equals MCAT formula, you're not going to have just one temperature, you're going to have two different temperatures. And what you're going to do to them is you're going to subtract them to find out what the change is. So whenever you see a question with two different temperatures, it's automatically the MCAT formula. If you see only one temperature, then you've got to decide between the heat of fusion and heat of vaporization. Okay? Along the heat of fusion and heat of vaporization lines, remember those are the flat lines, on a flat line on this heating curve, that's where you have potential energy changing. So anytime it's on a flat line at letter B and letter D, potential energy is what's doing the work. When you have a temperature change on the diagonal lines, right, those diagonal lines are where the temperature is changing. And remember, when temperature changes, it changes the kinetic energy of the particles. Okay? Lastly, we've got to think about the units. Our options for units, it could be kilojoules or it could be joules. You'll know from the units that are given to you, like if you look down at the numbers, see how it says kilojoules or joules or calories? You'll know from the unit, but you have a couple of options. Heat of fusion and vaporization always have to be kilojoules. Okay? You'll be reminded of that by the unit. For the MCAT formula, it could be joules or calories. Again, you'll have to look at the unit of are you using the HF or the HV or the specific heat. Hopefully that sets you up a little bit so that you can walk through the 6 problems on the bottom of this page. Good luck!